So a while back, I picked up a MotoVox bike in town for a couple $100. And when I got this bike, it didn't have any brakes at all. I added a MB200 rear brake, a Go Power Sports front suspension brake kit, but I actually installed it on the rigid forks. So I installed some new forks, the brake caliper, and then a street tire. And then in the third video, I did a 9-inch stretch, relocated the kickstand from about here to back here, and then relocated the chain tensioner. So now all I have to do is add an exhaust. So normally you have the wheel mounts about right here where the kickstand is. So the wheel's down a lot farther in the frame. So now with the stretch, the wheel's back here and it's kind of in the way of the exhaust. Because when I add an exhaust pipe on here, it comes out really close to the tire. So I'm either gonna have to cut the exhaust pipe or maybe heat it and bend it up, or add an angled motor mount. And then I'm gonna replace the stock tank with an aftermarket tank. So like I said, everything I've did on this bike so far has been on the cheap or really inexpensive. I think I only got the bike for around a couple $100. So to keep with that theme, I'm gonna try to heat this pipe, hopefully, and bend it up to where it needs to be. I figure if I heat the pipe around here and then use my pry bar, I can bend it up to where I need it in the frame, hopefully without ruining the tubing. And if I do, then I guess I'll have to get a new exhaust. But in the name of cheap, I gotta try it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, it possibly could catch on fire maybe. So with it bolted down, you can see it comes out really close to the tire. And also, if you look down the center here, the pipe comes out at an angle. It's not completely centered. So at the same time, I can kind of straighten that out too and bring it over a little bit. So I'm thinking if I heat it right about here, that should work. Maybe. So I guess we'll find out. So you figure I throw some heat on it, and I use my pry bar here to bend it up, and I think that'll do it. I got a towel on here just to kind of keep things cool. Well, that thing's getting hot, quick. Got it pretty good. And then I got it straight too. So that'll work. Man, that only took a couple seconds. Man, that thing heated up quick. So that's nice. I don't have to buy a pipe. And nothing caught on fire. So now I'll let this thing cool off, and then I'll bolt it on there permanently, and then I'll pull this tank off of here. So I got the tank off of there and the pipe bolted down permanently. So now I'll go ahead and make up some mounts for this. So I think I'll bolt a piece of metal here and then run one up and across and then down to this mount. And then I'll probably raise it up a little bit too to keep the tank off of the engine and then closer to the center of the frame here too. So I made up a piece for back here on this mount in the back, about 3 inches long. And that way I can run a piece over here on the edge over to the front. So I can bring the tank over this way a little bit to center it in the frame. So I think I'll tap these, even though I don't really need to. I could just throw a bolt and a nut through here. I can put my 3/8 by 16 bolt in here, bolt down my mount. So I have the cross section made up. But the thing is, it's metal and then the tank's aluminum. I probably could put it on there directly, but I think I'm gonna cut this piece of rubber here and glue on a piece of rubber. And that way the tank will be setting on a piece of rubber. I mean, I probably don't have to do this, but what the heck, just to be safe. That way there's no chance of wearing a hole through the tank. So I got my mounts all painted up. I got the back mount painted up. So I'll go ahead and bolt these on here and then bolt on that cross mount. Bolt the top bracket on here. So I got the top mount on there with the rubber base. So now I can bolt the tank on here, and it's up high enough to clear the fuel fitting. I picked up these clamps at the hardware store with these rubber sleeves. Yeah, I think those will work out pretty nice. And these clamps are about the perfect length too. They're just barely long enough. Okay, and that'll work out. You got the cap right in the center there. Throw this cap on here. All right, that worked out pretty good. Throw some fuel line on here. There's one thing I do not have is a fuel shutoff, which I need to get. But until then, I'll just throw this inline filter in here. Got the fuel line on there, and it looks to clear pretty well, far enough away from the head. So now I'll throw on that chain guard, or clutch guard. I picked up this inexpensive chain guard to kind of go along with the theme of the bike, a budget build, and it actually looks pretty good. I like the way it's nice and thin. It doesn't stick out too far, and it matches the tank. So is this chain guard the best chain guard in the world now? Or is the 3D Motorsport chain guard still the best chain guard in the world? I mean, they stick out a little bit farther, but it's made out of aluminum. It's pretty nice. And I think these are around, I think 30 or 35. So is this the best chain guard in the world? Or is the eBay chain guard the best chain guard in the world? Throw it on here and we'll find out. So that looks pretty nice on there. So it matches the tank and it doesn't stick out too far. So now there's one more thing that I have to put on here to kind of finish it off, and that is the MotoVox seat. We'll see how close that exhaust is to the seat when I get it bolted down. So I think the seat will clear the pipe without heating the bottom of the seat up. Got the seat all bolted down, and there is plenty of room under there between the seat and the header pipe. So no need for a heat shield on that one. Yeah, so I think it turned out pretty good so far for a total budget build. So I think it turned out pretty good for being a homemade tank bracket and then a heated pipe, but I have to keep with that budget theme. So I have a few more budget parts ordered up for this bike.